Imagine someone copying xxHolic and pasting it into the series called Yashe because that's how similar these two series are. This new series reminds me a lot of my favorite anime series called xxHolic, where a witch resides in a shop that grants the wishes of people in return for a price. You must make the payment with your most important item that is usually in the form of sentimental value than actual money. But I made a video that focuses on the series a lot more, and you can find a link to the video in the card above or in the description below if you want to know more. In Yashe, or otherwise known in English as Silent House, the owner of this antique shop lends out items that fulfills the wishes of its customers. These customers always meet him at their time of need, as the owner does not speak with money but rather of yuan, that is, fate. If it was fated for them to meet him, then the shop owner will lend a helping hand with his antique items that seem to know the deepest wishes of its users. Silent House is not an anime series from Japan, but rather from China, making the series a Donghua, which is basically Chinese anime. I don't think there was actual copying and pasting from both series, as their source material is very different. Their similarity, though, lies in the atmosphere of the series and its premise. Both of the shop owners are immortal beings who have walked the earth for a long time, and they have a normalish human sidekick who runs small errands for them. Or in the case of xxHolic, the owner really gets a kick out of making the human do every single chore in the shop. Both sidekicks wear glasses and interacts with the shop owners on a daily basis. Although their circumstances for staying are different, each of them has a reason to stay and will be deeply troubled if they stopped going to their respective shops. Their interactions with these long-life beings is much more than just a regular visitor. In xxHolic, the two of them are as if they are a parent and child. In Silent House, they are old friends who have reunited after a long time apart. When it came to the characterization of each characters from the respective series, none of them are exactly alike. In xxHolic, the witch is much more animated with her expressions and remains a mystery to this day, but she always maintains a mentor-like relationship with those who live in the store. The shop owner in Silent House is much more calm and is also very mysterious, never really showing his emotions, but since both characters are beings who have lived a long time, they can be closed off, set in their ways, but they do have a lot of advice to give. Occasionally, these advice goes past people's heads, but they understand how fate works, even if it is working against the customers at times. It's not as if the shop owners have intentionally caused bad things to happen to their customers, rather it is the people's choices that cause them to do questionable things. In each episode of the series, all the customers have a unique wish, and each of them will have their wish granted with the help of supernatural items. Still, the job of these two is not to judge the customers, but rather to fulfill their wishes, whether it was good or bad. These two anime series strongly rely on the topic of fate, where each customer are placed into the store by fate itself, implying that every action has been predetermined. Although this idea is very broad, xxHolic and Silent House both show that the shop owners themselves do not have the choice to pick their customers, nor can they pick out the items for them. It seems that fate is the one that leads these customers to the shops, and it's up to the objects themselves to choose its user. Personally, I find it interesting that the customers we encounter do not willingly seek out those shop owners, nor do they know that they had a wish. Now, I'm not gonna go too deep into the topic of fate, but it is always nice to know that there are consequences to people who do bad things. And by the end of an episode, we do see the fate of the customers, and while fate implies a negative outcome, not all of them were stuck with a bad ending. Now, here's why I think xxHolic is actually better than Silent House. The customers in Silent House are always met with a happy ending and doesn't balance out both the good and bad outcomes of fate. Even if it took a long time, many of the customers in the series are fated to get a happy ending. Although both series are far from over, Silent House shows a more optimistic side to fate, while xxHolic presents both the good and bad outcomes to the customers' actions, especially in the cases of the monkey's paw and a suspiciously happy picture from the series xxHolic. One day, a student teacher arrives to see a cylinder case at the shop and wanted to buy it for her thesis on ancient objects. The owner agreed to give it to her on one condition, that no matter what, she cannot open it. The customer seemed fine with this, and days have passed peacefully until the case was inevitably opened and we see a monkey's paw. The monkey's paw is a story where a person somehow receives a mummified monkey's paw and finds that it has the power to grant wishes. So here she makes the following wishes. 1. To make rain fall. 2. For a precious antique mirror. 3. To complete her thesis for college. 4. To make an accident happen so she could be excused for lateness. And 5. To erase everything before her. A person's wish is never without a price. So always be careful for what you wish for or you will receive it, especially in this case. The monkey's paw is a cautionary tale reminding people that there are always unintended consequences to their actions. Another bad end story to the series was when a customer had come in to erase a certain picture. It was a picture of a girl smiling at the camera. It is now showing the customer and the girl smiling at each other, and as the customer in the picture moved to hug her friend, the girl is pushed down a cliff. The customer was ashamed of being seen like that because she had been happy to unalive her friend. In order for this crime to stay unexposed, the customer can never be caught on any camera device or else that scene will appear. In the modern era, there is no way to achieve this unless she stays hidden away for the remainder of her life, and that in itself is a prison of her own making. On the other hand, Silent House's quote-unquote unhappy endings are very open where no one really knows the end of a story. There are only 2 stories in the series where consequences are not yet met, starting with a mermaid spirit that resides in a candle that can burn for thousands of years. A young monk has lit a candle that contains the flesh of a mermaid. Only when the candle is extinguished, the mermaid spirit can move on. Unfortunately, the candle has to be put out by the same person who lit it. But the monk is unwilling to blow out the candle because it's his duty to guard the candle that is lit for the Buddha and keep it burning. And so time passes and the mermaid spirit and the monk had gotten quite friendly with each other. They are both attached to each other but have never crossed the line as they know they can never be anything more. Soon the emperor heard the news of a candle that never burns out. Because this candle is so unique, the emperor wanted it and sent his troops to retrieve it from the temple. The monk refuses to part ways with the candle, and even when he was chased down by soldiers, he never let the flames be extinguished. Finally, he gave it to the shop owner for safekeeping to keep the mermaid spirit alive and left himself to his own fate. This wasn't a good ending, and the mermaid was left with memories to make her long life a little less painful to live. Perhaps in the distant future, the monk and the mermaid would reunite in another life. But for now, her fate is left unknown. There was also a legend that was featured in the series, called the White Snake, which is about a snake spirit who turned into a woman and marries a mortal man. But a passing monk learns her secret and breaks them apart, believing a monster and human should not be together. The snake spirit would then be skinned alive and pass away. Snakes in Chinese legends can ascend to become dragons if they focus on doing good for the world. But because she was forced to suffer at the hands of the monk, the snake's life was taken away by force, and she held a deep grudge against her husband for betraying her love. In truth, the husband of the white snake had not known she was a snake spirit, and the monk had manipulated him into thinking his wife was being possessed by a snake demon. This caused the snake spirit to believe that her loving husband had betrayed her, but the fact was that he thought he was removing a demonic entity and did not think he was hurting her. In the end, her anger subsided, and she goes to find her husband again, no matter where he was. Both series presented these stories beautifully. I just prefer to have a more realistic approach to fate. It doesn't necessarily mean that good things shouldn't happen, but it takes a great amount of fortune to reunite with your fated one. This is a lesson I see a lot from Silent House, but in many of the episodes of the series, it seems that by the end, the characters have been reunited, and it just seems hypocritical to have this lesson without showing it more often. The reason why the episodes of the white snake spirit with her husband and the mermaid spirit with the monk did not end in a reunion is because they are long-lived species that shouldn't be interacting with mortals. But it seems pretty predictable that they will meet later on, perhaps even in another life, and that's a pretty happy ending. So xxHolic is truly better at giving a balanced outlook on life, where both good and bad things happen based on people's actions. But if you want a happier outlook on life, you can check out Silent House, especially if you like romantic stories. Romance is not the only thing in the series, it's just very common. On the other hand, xxHolic barely has any since it has much more supernatural elements. Each story is very unique to their respective series without it being too repetitive, even if they are very similar to each other. And if you just want to watch something that looks into the depths of humanity and to see how humans interact with the supernatural world, then these two series are the ones to look at. There is so much more to these series than just the anime, and if you are willing to get into their fandoms, I will be providing more information in the description to point you in the right direction. So thank you for watching the video, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye!